Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Blue is the New White podcast. Today, we're joined by Nicole Leclaire, a welding engineering technologist. Nicole is currently a welding instructor in Ontario, Canada. Her journey starts in high school where she took several trade-related courses like automotive and shop, but never truly considered them for a career, even though she loved working with her hands. She went the more traditional route and went off to university after graduation for all of about 4 months. She then took a good hard look at what she enjoyed, or rather what she didn't enjoy, and made a change. She dropped out of college and went to school for welding. After achieving the highest levels of welding she could, she went on to make it a career. Eventually, she circled back to becoming an instructor after recognizing how much she loved educating her customers. It was then she realized her passion for helping others succeed. Eventually, that blossomed into creating a bursary to help people financially who genuinely want to make a career out of welding. So, listen in to hear an amazing story from an amazing person who clearly understands the power of the people in these industries. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and on our website at blueisthenewwhite.com to receive all the latest updates. As always, this show's not monetized, and no, we don't run ads. We rely strictly on word of mouth from our listeners to further the mission. So if you enjoyed this episode, please take a second to rate it, review it, and share it with your friends. The future generations of tradespeople depend on it, on you. So thank you again, and enjoy this episode of Blue is the New White with Nicole Leclaire. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Blue is the New White podcast. Super excited about our guest today. Nicole, welcome to the Blue is the New White podcast.
Why, thank you. Thank you for having me. Looking forward to chatting it up with you today.
Yeah, you and I both. We had the pleasure of speaking once before this podcast, and I got to learn a little bit about you, and I'm just really excited because I think that what you have to say is going to resonate with my listeners, with my audience. Because they're all super interested in the personalities behind, the skilled trades that we love and that we talk about all the time. So with that being said, Nicole, for those who don't know who you are, why don't you go ahead and kind of just tell us who you are and where you come from?
Certainly. That's a loaded question. But yeah, I'm Nicole Leclaire, and I'm talking to you today from Burlington, Ontario, Canada. And I was born and raised in Ottawa. I am now a welder fitter, a welding engineering technologist, a red seal welder, a level 1 visual welding inspector, and I am a welding professor at a couple of community colleges here in the area. So I've been in the industry for, including school, probably about 24 years now. So it's been a while, and it's treated me very well.
That's great. So when did it begin for you? I mean, that's a long time to be in the industry, and so I'm curious, when did it start?
Well, let me tell you that when I was in high school, which would have been, let's just say early to mid 90s. Okay. The trades were not really presented to us at that level as a potential career. And, in hindsight, like, what a travesty that truly is. I wish it had been presented to me in a better light at that time, because I did take like automotive class and carpentry and other trade related courses as an elective class in high school. And I loved them. I always signed up for them. I enjoyed them, but it never occurred to me, and it was never presented to me that, hey, you know what, you can make a career doing this. So as a result, me, along with a lot of my friends after high school, we just applied to university because that's what was kind of expected of us to do. So I applied to Carleton University in Ottawa, got in, and that's what I did. I had no idea what my future was going to hold, but I thought, well, I got to start somewhere. I guess this is what I'm supposed to do.
What'd you study?
And I took it was a Bachelor of Arts honors. I was taking psychology and other crap courses that I only lasted a few months. Like, I signed up, I started at school in September. I think I made it till maybe Christmas time. And I just, to this day, distinctly remember sitting in this huge, like, theater type room in a class, and was questioning, like, okay, so what happens if I stick this out 4 years later, what's my job going to be? How am I going to earn my money? Where am I going to go every day? And I'm like, I did not see myself, working in anything in any capacity close to what I was in school for. So I wound up dropping out, and I worked, at the time I was a pharmacy dispensary assistant in a pharmacy. So I just worked that job, knowing that wasn't going to be my full-time job in the future either. Bought my first car, really tried to evaluate my life, and really started to focus on, well, what am I good at? And I've always loved working with my hands and fixing things. And, nobody else in my family is a welder or was really even working in the trade. So it's not even like I had that as an option. I really did a lot of soul searching and thought to myself, like, what do I love to do? And I've always wanted to know the how and why behind how things work. And so as a result, my mind just naturally led to the trades. And then I started to think about different types of trades and which ones appealed to me and which ones didn't. And welding was always something that intrigued me, and not because I have watched the movie Flashdance one too many times, because lots of people ask me that. That's not why. Okay. However, just fusing two pieces of metal together forever and it outlasting my lifetime just seemed really powerful to me. And so what I wound up doing was taking a night class at college in Ottawa at the time, where I was born and raised. And it was a continuing education night class in oxy-fuel welding and cutting. And honestly, that did it for me. That was enough to say, oh my gosh, I'm good at it. I like it. I dropped everything. I moved to Sudbury, Ontario, and I did a welder fitter program.
Question about that. Was there a lot of women in that class?
No, no, I know there wasn't for sure, but I'm trying to think way back then. And I might've been the only girl in that class at the time. But my memory is certainly clear of after that, when I moved to Sudbury and did the welder fitter program, there was 65 people in the class, and I was one of 2 girls.
Oh, wow.
In that program. And that was the welder fitter program that I did, and wound up graduating second highest in my class. So as a result, one of the weld shop technicians approached me and said, hey, you're pretty good at this. Have you ever thought about welding engineering technology? And I said, no, I'd never heard of that. And, but I was still just so, in love with the trade and wanting to know more and more and more. And while a lot of my peers at that time were graduating and getting, getting jobs in fab shops at that time, I pursued welding even further and did the 3-year welding engineering technology program.
You said your parents weren't in the trades?
No.
So how did they feel about you entering into, this line of work?
I think my mom was a little concerned, just because knowing that it was a male-dominated field, which it is and probably always will be. But my dad in particular, he for some reason always saw me in marketing or real estate. He said he thought I was creative and thought I would do well in those areas. But so I think they were a little apprehensive. Maybe they weren't sure if it was going to last or not, but they supported me. And I think once they saw how successful I was, how much I loved it, how much I pursued it, I think at the end of the day, all they wanted for me was to be happy, and they saw that I was happy. And so, no turning back at that point. And to this day, they're super proud.
Good. I ask because I hear that a lot, right? It's kind of a common narrative, mom and dad want you to get good grades, go to school, go to college, graduate, get a great, decent job, and all that kind of stuff. And some of them push hard, which is why I asked that question. Some of them, they genuinely want what's best for their children, and, no faulting that. But I think sometimes they struggle to admit, some of them, that they may not know what's best, and sometimes the best thing that they can do is be supportive, right? Like your parents. And really, if truly all they want is their kids to be happy, then, they got to listen. I like to bring that up on this podcast, because I know we've got a lot of younger listeners now, and that they may have parents out there that really want them to go to college or university, and some of them looking for a way to tell them that, hey, I want to work with my hands instead. So
yeah, absolutely. And this is a sad but true story, I guess. But where I work now, at the college, oftentimes we have open houses, and there was a student that came in with their father, and believe it or not, the father actually took him to the open house to try to convince him not to get into the trades. And he toured the weld shops, and he was like, look at this, is this the kind of environment you want to be in? And do this day in and day out and this and that. I could not believe what I was witnessing. So let me tell you, I took that opportunity to convince the parent of like all of the benefits that it offered, and the wages and the pension, and the satisfaction and rewarding aspect of working with your hands. And I wish I knew what that student was doing today. I hope that he did still. I hope he was able to pursue it, and hopefully whatever I said resonated with the father as well. But you're right. Oftentimes it is not convincing the young people to get into the trades. It's convincing their parents.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. I didn't mean to cut you off there. So you can keep going. Welding engineering technologies, where you left off.
So I pursued the education of welding. I just always wanted to know more about the metallurgy aspect of it. So because I had taken the welder fitter program, I was able to do the 3-year welding engineering technology program in 2 years, having to take a couple extra summer courses and whatnot to skip ahead. So that was good. And in that course, I definitely learned a lot more about metallurgy, and more technical aspects of power sources and robotics, automation, all that kind of stuff as it pertains to the welding industry. So that was pretty much the most education you could get in Canada at that point, specific to welding. So then I had to get out and get a real job at that point. While in school, though, in the welding engineering technology, this class was a lot smaller than my previous course. There was 14 of us. Still, I was one of 2 girls in that program, and a much smaller class. So anyways, after that, I wound up working for a welding distributor covering large territories over the many years, helping clients with any aspect of welding that they needed help with, purchasing machines, processes, the right types of gas to use, converting manual processes to automated processes with 6-axis robotic arms, all kinds of stuff. Kind of got to really know a lot about a lot of different aspects, as opposed to working for, say, a manufacturer after school and learning a lot about one particular area. I got to know a lot about a lot of aspects. So then that kind of broadened my horizons and really made me open my eyes to just how many avenues welding can actually take you. So it's been great.
So to enlighten our audience a little bit, what are some of the avenues that welding in particular can take you?
Well, the great thing about welding, I mean, it is such a transferable skill. And now that I'm teaching it at the college, it's just reiterated that much more how transferable it is, because you think about how many other trades out there need to know about welding: plumbers and steam fitters and millwrights and HVAC, automotive, if I haven't said them already, and even carpenters. There's even a welding component to a carpenter's apprenticeship training. They have to know how to do some stick welding and oxy-fuel cutting as well. So it just applies to so many different trades, first of all. And gosh, if you want to burn rod all day, and that's great. You can become a supervisor. You can get into the automotive. Sorry, I didn't mean to say automotive. I meant you can get into like supervisory roles. Mm-hmm. Become a 4-person. You can pursue it and get your red seal. I'm not sure what they call that in the States, but it's like here it's an interprovincial ticket recognized across the country. You can pursue welding inspection. You can get into robotic programming. You can get into metallurgy and weld failure. I mean, there's just so many different avenues.
Could open your
Absolutely.
own.
Start your own business. Get a rig, put a machine on the back, and go make repairs and do fabrication on your own. So yeah, I mean, there's so many options.
Well, and I ask because I don't think that, and this doesn't pertain just to welding, right? It pertains to all the trades, and a lot of the people that I talk to, people just don't understand. They don't know all the different avenues that a career in the skilled trades can take them. They have this perception that they've developed over the years or whatever, this picture in their mind of what it means to be a welder, what it means to be a plumber, what it means to be, an HVAC tech or a carpenter, and it's very one track if you don't know much about it, and you haven't been exposed to all the different areas that intertwine in these trades. And so I think it's important to get people to understand that even just pick a small vertical like welding and how many different directions it can take you and how it can be, a backbone to, your continued success is very important. And you're a great example too, right? Because, and I'm going to lead us down a little different path now, but we talked in our last conversation about how you're teaching now. And maybe at one point in time, teaching wasn't something that you thought that this career would lead you toward, So talk to me a little bit about that, right? I mean, this is a passion that it sounds like you may not have known you had in the beginning.
No, absolutely not. The road to success is not always a straight one. That is for sure. And it was actually through my career at the welding distributor that made me realize how much I love, the education aspect to it, because I wound up walking away from a lot of site visits and customer visits where I felt the most gratified and satisfaction from talking with the customer and educating them and explaining to them about, square wave TIG technology, or I don't know, some sort of, new aspect or procedure to welding. And I knew that when I left there, that they were better off for me having been there that day. And it was just so great that I was able to help them. And I just loved the education aspect of it. And so I thought to myself, gosh, why don't I just reroute my career a little bit so that I can focus on that? And I wound up approaching the associate dean at the college that I work at now. I'm asking him just to sit down and have a conversation with me to see about what a day in the life of a college professor is like, and to see if it in fact would appeal to me. And we started out with a few hours a week, and I loved it. And then I just dove in head first after that. So, nice. Yeah, that's where my passion lies.
What's the most gratifying part for you?
Watching the progression of these new young, shiny faces coming in at the beginning of a term and never having struck an arc before in their life and seeing a lot of, rough starts kind of thing. And then through, the time and practice and taking my advice and expertise and heading back to that booth and practicing what I tell them to practice and watching them get better. It's just, to me, that's quite gratifying. And then at the end of the year, seeing just, some of those welder looking better than mine kind of thing, some people just do have a knack for it. So I find that very gratifying of watching the progression and knowing that I had a hand in that, and knowing that, hopefully when they look back on their career or their education, as I do looking back on my education, being grateful for their instructors. So I got to be a little part of their welding history.
That's great. So on the topic of advice, you I imagine as an educator, you give lots of advice, but what's the first thing that you tell your class on day one?
Well, that early ahead, probably just if you're not sure, ask. For sure, a lot of people aren't too sure about how to hook up everything and get started. And yeah, just it's better to ask if you're not sure. But yeah, but you don't know unless you try. We go over safety like crazy to make sure everybody feels comfortable. And I find like a lot of my students put a lot of pressure on themselves, and they'll come out of their booth after doing one or two welds and they're so frustrated. They're like, I can't get it. I'm like, well, was like an Olympic swimmer awesome the first time you swam a lap? No, like it takes a lot of practice. I mean, like, don't be so hard on yourself. Like, yeah, give yourself some time. Yeah. So
everybody sucks at something first.
But don't be afraid to fail. Basically, just try it. And then little do they know, just how much, just a little practice. And it goes a long way. So basically just don't be afraid to fail.
That's great. I like that a lot. Don't be, because these are fundamentals, right? I mean, you're teaching, I imagine most of your class is younger, probably some that are looking for new careers, right? But maybe a lot of them are younger.
Yep, you get it all. You just have to be 18 years of age or older. So a lot of people are coming in right out of high school, but at the same time, a lot are in their mid to late 20s, and some this year right now, I have over the age of 40. And in the past, I've had a father attend school with their daughter. He was well into his 50s. So, you get all ages.
That's great.
And yeah, a lot of people like myself included. I mean, I didn't know I wanted to get into it right after high school. So I think a lot of people are figuring these things out later and coming from different backgrounds. And I have one person in my class who came from a pet grooming background and all kinds of different backgrounds. And like I said, I used to work in a pharmacy dispensary, different things lead us down different paths for different reasons. And, but so it's kind of neat that we've all converged here on the same level with welding and get to share that common interest and love. And yeah, it's a mishmash of people.
Yeah, no kidding. No. And that's great, I think, because, at the end of the day, and I say this all the time, at the end of the day, none of that matters. It's really, can you do the job, right? And that's what I love about the skilled trades is it's just so black and white. It's it's a good way that I've found to build personal accountability, right? You know if you screw something up. Let's put it that way, right? Where maybe if you're in an office job and you're doing spreadsheets all day, there's a couple of numbers you could bury. If you make a mistake, you may not know of it ever, or maybe 3 weeks later, or a month later. If you screw up a weld, it's right there in front of you. You know what I mean? You know it. Especially like you mentioned in the HVAC industry or refrigeration industry. If you don't braze correctly, that refrigerant is pissing out back at you like nobody's business, and right then and there, oh, I need to do this better. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. There's that accountability right up front.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, absolutely. So I love that aspect of it. And I really like what you said too. If you're not sure, ask. I got to be honest, Nicole, I own a business now with 70 plus employees, and I still am amazed at how many people come in and they are, whether they've developed it over the years or whatever, how it came about, they're still afraid to ask. There's almost like this expectation that even the young ones, right? I'm talking specifically about like the apprentices that come in, that don't know much. It's hard sometimes to get them to ask. Do you find this too with some of your students, or are they pretty intuitive?
No, I definitely find that as well. And that's why I try to reiterate it as much as I can. For some reason, I'm not sure where it comes from, but it's like they feel as though they are, once they start a job or whatever, that they should just be expected to know because they've graduated, they've got this diploma. And I keep telling them, lifelong learner right here. I mean, I've been in the industry for so many years. I'm still learning. I'm still taking courses. I'm still improving on my own skills. So yeah, definitely ask. And I tell them as well that, it's a lot less costly as well to ask now than to have to rework a project later and fix a problem. Just ask first.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to gouge out welds and re-weld them.
That's right. So. And there's so much power in it too, because, most people are happy to answer. That's the other thing that I found is that, most people would rather you ask than you try if you don't know, just ask. So, no, that's good. So I'm curious, you're an instructor for, you have to be 18 or older to be in this course. So, but what do you say when you have the opportunity to speak with, say, high school students or even below that age? What kind of advice do you have for them, in pursuing a career?
Well, yeah, I definitely speak to a lot of students of all ages. The youngest I've spoken to, I believe they were like a grade 2 class, really young, wow. just to expose them, not to talk about careers, but just to let them know, to look around them and look for welds and what they look like and what kind of things are welded, and just to plant a seed early on. But yeah, when I do speak to people in like, say, grade 7 and 8, because I feel like that's really where we need to get them before they start high school in grade 9. Mm-hmm. And yeah, just honestly, bottom line, to just try it, because you don't know unless you try, and, wipe out all the stereotypes that have been programmed in your brain and just give it a try. People always seem to wind up saying that they love it way more than they thought they would. And you know what? If you try it and you don't like it, that's okay. Then it's not for you. No problem. But you would have wound up, taking away from it something very valuable, learn something. And then you've learned that it's not for you. But chances are you're probably going to think it's pretty fun.
It is fun.
I mean, how gratifying is it to work with your hands and see results? And, I love just putting my hair in a ponytail, putting my overalls on and going to work, it's great. So I love that.
There is and it's not talked about enough, I don't think, especially when we're talking to students or anybody considering a trade, but there is a different, and I'll say it's a unique sense of satisfaction when you're crafting something, when you're using your hands to fix something or mold something or build something or weld something, and it really is. And maybe it's just me, and of course everybody's different, but I've found that a lot of skilled trades people define that as almost their flow state, right? It's a source of meditation for them. Like they get in this zone when they're in front of whatever it is that they're working on, whatever it is that they're welding, whatever it is that they're plumbing, and it's just that's what they can focus on. And for a lot of people that makes them feel valuable. It makes them feel accomplished. You know what I mean? I'm definitely one of those. And I think that that's something that's missing I'll call it marketing, that we do for the skilled trades. No one ever described that to me, when I was in high school. Nobody ever said, hey, if you try it, to your point, this is what you might find. And it's absolutely amazing.
It is. You just get so focused on what you're doing. And, I can only speak on behalf of welding, of course, but I find it kind of almost meditative when that helmet is down and you're just focused on the arc and you're just so focused on getting it right. And keeping focused on the puddle that you block out everything else in your brain. And if something else is bugging you or other life issues, you know what? When I'm working and I'm welding, none of that enters my mind, and it's kind of a peaceful Zen feeling. But to your point of what you were saying before about, what people find, gratifying, I find a common thread is that so many people will say, well, basically, I think the element of pride is a common thread, because they can say, hey, like point up to some building or bridge or whatever it is and say, I had a hand in that. And they have that feeling of pride knowing that a little bit of them, was there forever, and their work will live on beyond their years. And I think there's a feeling of pride is certainly a common thread with a lot of tradespeople.
I like that. And I think you're absolutely right. I've noticed that trend too. We are prideful people. We're very, very proud of what we do and what we accomplish. And there's a lot to be said about that. One thing I am curious of, and I didn't ask this when you said it before, but when you go in and you talk to students about welding, specifically younger students, right? And you say, for kind of an awareness piece about how much is actually welded, do you bring any props with you, and I'm asking this for a purpose, or do you use what's around you in the classroom to give these examples?
Well, I have an old hockey bag on wheels that I load up with all kinds of stuff, because I find like seeing and touching is like that really will cement it in their brain, right? If they get to hold and touch and see all kinds of examples. I bring in my helmets and gloves and welded pieces and my helmet and all that. And they love it. And I think it really is a more memorable experience for them to do that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And, the reason I ask this is because I often say, you can't look around. You can't throw a rock, right? You can't throw a rock in this world without hitting something that's a result of the trades. And I'm trying to put myself in your shoes. I'm walking into a second grade classroom and I'm talking about welding and, raising awareness about it. And I think you're right. There's something to touching and feeling and holding, especially specific things that you have control over. But I think there's also power in, maybe not for second graders. I could be overthinking this. I do that sometimes. But, I think in looking around and saying, hey, turn over the chair that you're sitting in real quick. Show me how those legs are connected to the base. Let's all crawl underneath the teacher's metal desk and see how those corners look. Because there's an element of welding in there. I almost guarantee it. If anything in that classroom is metal, or hey, let's look at the door and see how this metal door is put together. Or the hand. There's a lot there. And again, I say maybe not for second graders, but one of the things that I and this is only a theory, but the trades, I feel like, and welding's a good example, may be overlooked because they're everywhere, right? It's that sock on the dryer, or that penny on the dresser, that's been there for 5 years and you don't even notice it anymore. You don't even see it, and maybe those are bad examples because the trades serve more of a purpose than that sock, but it becomes almost that white noise, right? Where it's just taken for granted, for lack of a better term. It's just, it's all around us. So it's just expected, and I think if we can open people's eyes to the power in constructing and building civilization, I don't know, there could be something there. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. What kept resonating in my mind when you were saying that is, taking it for granted. People just do take it for granted. And so I definitely do all those things that you mentioned. And just to reiterate, I only spoke to that class once. The majority of people I speak to are at the high school level or maybe grade 7 and 8. And even if they are in high school, I still basically will reiterate the same thing, still bring in the same kind of show and tell stuff for them as well, and ask them to look around. And I challenge them at the end of all my talks to be on the lookout for the welds. And it's just amazing. Like, I was standing outside of like a sandwich shop the other day, and the awning was coming out over. And what am I doing? Like, nobody would look at that stuff but me. And I'm like, oh, look at that aluminum that welded. That's pretty good. Or
somebody
that's
dropped
so good,
some dimes up there. Look at that.
Yeah. I was just working on the weekend with a rail system for a boathouse, and examining all the welds and trailers. My eyes drawn to that, but of course that's my business. So I'm looking at that all the time, but I challenge them as well. Like, no matter where they are, like you said, within an arm's reach, I'm sure they'll be able to find something that was welded. And it's in the things that you don't always expect. Like, I worked with somebody once who always said that welding saves lives, because even pacemakers are laser welded. So, welding saves lives.
I did not know that. That is cool. See, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. Being able to spin these perceptions to resonate with the newer generations, right? Welding saves lives. That's perfect, right? You want to change the world, be part of the industries that literally manufacture it. You know what I mean? And these are because listen, they were never talked about like that. Through the years, the trades were, kind of rough and tumble, and hey, this is your job, this is what you do it. You know what I mean? But it's different now. The the newer generations receive information a little bit differently, which is fine. That's to be expected, and I think that by and large, the skilled trades industries, although they are shifting to be able to speak this same language, some of them, I feel like, struggle a little bit, and kind of hold on to their roots of this, blue collar, rough and tumble, old school type of mentality that we just need to listen. There's always going to be an element to that, but I think we've got to, as an industry, as a community, learn to speak the language a little better.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like you said, it's not all this rough and tumble stuff. And my students are often surprised that there's such thing as as clean rooms and welding in a clean room and TIG welding and making over $50 an hour with booties on your steel toe boots and working in such a clean environment. Yeah. So it's not all dirty and gross. Lots of it is, but that's okay.
That's right.
Like they say, the work's dirty, but the money's clean.
That's it. So what's next for you, Nicole? What you've got this? It sounds like you're feeling very fulfilled with your teaching aspect of things. You're still able to focus on your craft, but what's on the horizon for you?
Well, I had mentioned that I'm a level 1 visual welding inspector, and I've earned my time and hours to now pursue the level 2. So I actually just received a letter from the Canadian Welding Bureau just the other day, letting me know that I can go ahead and register for that anytime. So I got the go ahead and ordered my books, and so that's what's next up for me, is becoming a level 2 visual welding inspector, and along with that is really spending more time and working on my welding bursary, which I haven't talked about yet, but I'm in the process right now of narrowing down some of my top applicants who will be receiving some money from me for a welding bursary for the fall of 2022. So
that's awesome. You want to explain a little bit about what that is?
Certainly. So about 4 years ago, I've I'm just so passionate about the trade that I feel like, I want to do more. I feel like I want to do more to help young people get into the trades. And if they know they want to get into the trades and financing is, a struggle for them, I don't want that to be the reason why they can't pursue their dream. So I developed the Nicole LeClaire Welding Bursary Award, and I am now in my 4th year of issuing out money for that. So I'm choosing 4 winners. They will each receive $2,000 to offset their tuition, and that money will get paid directly to the educational institution. And so this is something that been a passion of mine, and it's just so gratifying that to be able to help these students. And now that it's been in existence for 4 years, I've seen a lot of my previous recipients now graduate from school and get jobs. And it's, again, gratifying, makes me feel good, and makes me feel good to know that I had a little hand in their education and them starting out in the industry. So the motto of my bursary is strive, persist, be in it with all your heart. So those are the types of applicants that I'm looking for, who are just really driven and who I feel like will stay in the industry after they graduate, because there is such a need for tradespeople in general, but welders specifically. Baby boomers are retiring. For every 10 people that leave the industry, there's really only one person coming in to replace them at present. So it's leaving a very big gap, a very big need, and that's my little way of trying to give back and to put forth trained new tradespeople into the industry.
Yeah, that's fantastic. How rewarding. And thank goodness for people like you out there that see the need and are literally funding it. That's so is it open to anybody, or is it specific people? How does that work?
And women, people of any age, at any stage in their life, just anybody at all. I'm basically doing this in conjunction with the Canadian Welding Bureau. They're hosting my landing page for the application, and they have agreed to perpetuate this for me on my behalf. Long after I am gone. Like I said, this is my legacy. It's in my will, and this will go on in perpetuity. So I needed a partner in that sense, looking to the future. So for as long as I'm around, I'm going to be doing it and interviewing all of the applicants. And for many, many years to come, this will live on. So I don't have any kids, and I wanted some kind of legacy to leave behind. So it's going to be educating, helping to fund welding education in Ontario, Canada.
Well, it's a hell of a legacy, I gotta say. It's an important one. And again, just, thank you for doing it, because in the end, it's contributing to the betterment of society. It is.
I would like to think so. This did all get founded from my own money and my own investment. However, any company or individual who wants to donate, they do get a tax receipt, and of course, I'm always happy to take donations. But it is originally founded with my own funds.
Awesome. All right. Well, I got one more question for you before we wrap everything up. All right. So, in my book and on this podcast, I talk a lot about success, right? And how historically how it's been is that we as a society tend to stick everybody in the same box of success, right? Um, Go to college, get a job, make a lot of money, have a house, 2.5 kids, white picket fence, all that kind of stuff. And we sometimes fail to realize that people have different definitions of success, and that sometimes, more often than not, means different paths for different people, different requirements, different everything. So I'm curious for you, Nicole, what is your definition of success and how are the skilled trades helping you achieve that?
Well, it's been a long journey, and I've certainly paid my price and put in a lot of hours and all of that. And looking ahead to now present, I feel as though I'm finally getting to kind of reap the rewards and feel that success and of all that work that I've put in over the past few years. So, I mean, as much as I love work and love welding, there for me, anyways, realizing there's a lot more to life than work. So for me, having this success now is enabling me to spend more time helping my parents, doing other things in life, and getting to enjoy some free time and do other things that I enjoy. So I guess in terms of success, it's allowed me more time, and by getting paid really well, I don't have to work every day of the week now, kind of thing. And but I just don't want people to think that as soon as they get into the trades, it might be like that.
Yeah.
I put in all my time, but again, I just want to reiterate, looking more to now that my success over the years have kind of culminated now to being able to enjoy this kind of lifestyle now. But looking back, if I was to define success then, it would have been that, I didn't need to rely on anybody else. Yeah, I was working all day, every day, but I certainly paid all my bills and bought my first house. And, it was very, very gratifying to put the skills that I had learned, to work and to see that reap rewards. That's a feeling of success in and of itself.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And I respect that a lot. And, especially when you say that, that disclaimer for everybody out there, right? It's not going to come overnight, and there's a lot of truth to that, and I hope that resonates with everybody. As long as you put in the work, as long as you put in the time, these types of careers can lead you toward whatever success is to you, but you do have to put in the work and put in the time. This is not
absolutely perseverance.
Yeah, that's right. This is not a get rich quick scheme. This is a good, solid career.
Yeah.
And
this is many years of blood, sweat, and tears.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Well, Nicole, where can people find you or find information about your bursary?
Well, I communicate mostly on the Nicole LeClaire Welding Bursary Facebook page. There is also a website dedicated for the bursary, which is www.easydonate.com/Nicole LeClaire. And I can send you those links as well. And that's pretty much it. Maybe I should have a larger social media presence nowadays.
You'll get there, I'm sure. All right, cool. Well,
but mainly through Facebook.
Awesome. Well, I'll make sure to get that in the link on this or in the description on the show as well, so people have that address. So awesome. Well, Nicole, thank you so much for spending your valuable time with me today and with my audience. I know that what we talked about today is going to resonate with them, and I appreciate what you do for the industry and for your students, and again for coming on.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure, and any opportunity I have to spread the word, I love every time I get to do that. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my story.
Absolutely. Thanks again, and take care. All right.